Hello, everyone. Welcome to, what is it? What month is it?
This is July.
July.
This is the end of July.
The end of July Q&A. Yeah, this was the July Q&A, and we actually had to push it to the end of the month.
We did.
So I apologize. That was on me because I was out of town so much this month.
You were gallivanting around the world.
This was a crazy month for me. This is the most out of the office time I think I've had since we started here, just because stuff.
I think this is the longest time you and I have been apart.
I know.
Since this project started.
Glorious. It was so amazing. It was the greatest. Oh my God! Can you tell? I feel like I've come back to life, like a phoenix reborn from the ashes.
Is that what it is? Is that what it is? Okay.
So anyway, I am J. Todd Coleman, creative director of Crowfall.
And I am Thomas Blair, the design director of Crowfall.
And we are here to answer your questions about Crowfall, some of which we've prepared and some of which you will hit us up over the Twitch channel, and we will answer them.
And we're here
I feel a little rusty, and there will be answers to those questions.
And there will be things, and Todd can remember how to talk.
By Q&A.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, so no, we'll be good. I'm back in it. My answers may be about a month old though. Have you guys moved on yet?
We have been
100?
We have been polishing and shining.
Land.
Yeah, 5.100 is a huge leap forward in the sense of playability for us.
Is it? When's it going live?
It went live this morning.
Yeah, I actually knew that. But
it's pretty fantastic. I think we've been watching all the streams. The response so far has been really good. You guys are out there leveling up. You're seeing all the new magic loot, the monsters, the progression path. It's not so just terrible as it was before.
Well, there was no kind of on-ramp.
And our reward sucked. Come on.
Yeah, and the reward cycle just wasn't there at all. Now you've got one. This will now kind of be a feeder. What's nice is we will be training the player. The leveling curve is really, really fast. I mean, I think
absolutely.
You can get a character up to speed in a couple hours, even if you're new coming in. But the goal then is to actually train you a little bit so that when you go off into the campaign world, you're not just owned, and then you quit.
Yeah.
You actually now kind of know how to play your character. So we'll see. I'm excited to see what the payoff is. The early response in the God's Reach has been good, but the real payoff to me comes in seeing more players make it through that process and then be successful in the campaign.
Well, so the guys that are playing now have been playing for years, so they know all the powers, and they know, right, and they've learned the talent trees over the last couple updates. My hope that as people go through the God's Reach is they actually, for the newer players, is they learn their classes, they learn their powers.
Absolutely.
That way, their first time in PvP, it's not this miserable experience where they just got stunned and dead.
Yeah,
because that's no fun for everybody. You want to use some of your powers, right? So hopefully the war tribes, which are doing player powers, you will get to see what other players can do.
Yep.
Right, so the knights will stun you, the confessors will throw fire tornadoes at you, so you'll see all the stuff that players will do against you at some point while you're progressing a character.
Because the war tribes are set up to be players. So we call, let's back up just a second. So we call this update the Fortunes of War update. And there's really, because there are two not quite related, but kind of tangentially related features that were kind of the major tent poles of this, right? One was magic loot, because that fixed the reward cycle, and suddenly we actually have now I have a reason to get loot. I can sell to vendors. I can take those objects and put them in the sacrifice brazier, and I can actually get experience points. So that's awesome. The other one is the embargo, right? All the embargo stuff came online. Embargo is interesting because what Embargo really does is it shines a spotlight on the fact that our game universe is more expansive than a traditional MMO. Usually I have a server, and that's just a copy of the exact same world as this server, and the copy of this server. They're all exact identical copies. Ours is more like EVE Online, where the universe is expansive and every world is unique and different, and my character can travel between them. So the Embargo now suddenly creates that connective tissue for allowing players to move stuff back and forth. And now that we have this baseline, we have a harness, we can start to put other things on, like, well, I can put a prereq on a campaign that only elves can come in, or only players of level 20 can come in, or you can only bring in this many import and export things. We've been laboring for so long with kind of this raw skeleton spirit bank system that seeing the real embargo system come online for the first time is a big, big deal.
It also gives us huge knobs for difficulty.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And uniqueness, right? We can start to actually turn the knobs and get different campaign types, which is really cool.
Correct. So that's been kind of the dream since the beginning, is each of these campaign worlds is its own unique thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now we have the knobs to actually start turning that and say, hey, only level 5 characters can
and
come
the bridge to let people move both players and items in between them. Correct. So the other thing with the embargo that I really like about the way the thing is designed is you have kind of worlds that are restricted, like the campaign worlds, where we're very strict about what can come in and out. Then we have unrestricted worlds like EKs and the God's Reach, the newbie area. Those are unrestricted. So what that means is all of the complexity around the embargo, we kicked that out in the play experience so that a new player just coming in for the first time, they aren't exposed to that right out of the gate. They don't get confused. They can just kind of log in and play. And if they want to move to another unrestricted world, they just go back to the lobby and they log in there and they arrive with all their stuff intact.
Yeah,
so that's actually really helpful because a lot of this is just trying to get people. Our game has a lot of complexity,
a lot of rough edges too, right?
Tons of depth, and so just throwing people into it, they're often like. The biggest response we saw is we would drop people in. They would look around like it's paralysis by too many. I don't know what to do.
We've got lights everywhere,
Nothing
like these
makes
big
any
ones
sense.
just shining
So
down.
I'm just overwhelmed. Now we're starting to see an actual predictable experience that we can take people through and expose the different systems over time. So this is pretty exciting, actually.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see it come online. So, okay, so that's the Fortunes of War update. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in there, like, bonus content. Here's a Fey Knight. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't really fall into the Fortunes of War theme, but whatever. We need a cool marketing title, or Cece gets upset.
Well, and that one was
She
fun
doesn't
too.
like us to call it 5.100. She likes some cool, fancy names.
Now, she said that you didn't like the numbers.
You don't like the numbers.
The numbers publicly aren't very helpful anyway, but we did. I remember she and I actually sat around puzzling out what the hell do we call this one? Like, what's a good name for this one? And I will say, when we first came up with Fortunes of War, I was even kind of like, I don't know if I like it, but the more I've used it, it actually really works. I like it a lot. It's kind of fun to say, and it sticks out in the mind. Like Siege Perilous had a great name.
Yeah.
Hunger Dome had a good
Also,
name.
people can remember back to a point like Big World.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember what the game was in Big World.
Yeah.
And it was not much of a game at that point. It was our first attempt at a big world.
Yep,
But
absolutely.
I kind of remember based on that. So if I'll remember back to Fortunes of War, I'll be like, that's when we put in Magic Loot.
Yeah.
Right? So you can basically stick a pin at those points.
There's a bunch of other little stuff in this one too that are like significant. Like just opening up the map now, there's a little icon marking all the war tribes, and you can mouse over that icon. It'll tell you this is an Iroquois Birdman war camp, and the difficulty level is 5. Now, we don't really describe the difficulty level is basically that number times 3 is player level ish. So we need to probably be more clear about that. But at least it tells me something. It tells me if I'm getting in the game and I'm 9th level right now, I'm like, oh, where do I go next? Before, the answer was just run and hope you stumble into the spot that works.
And that's what I was
Good luck.
referring to as rough edges, right?
Yeah.
So in this one, we took like a good 50 grade sandpaper
Yeah.
to that entire intro experience. So you can just come in and really not know anything,
Yeah.
and just play through, and the content will kind of pull you through. You open the map, you go in the temple, and you see all these things, right? So I think we did a good job of just knocking off some of those really hard
We did, and there a
edges.
few of the experiments that we tried worked out really, really well. Like the have to interact is much looser now. It kind of figures out. You don't have to be as specific with targeting the chest. If you're close enough, it'll figure that out. Some of them are like still questionable in my mind, like the auto run stuff with the inventory up. I kind of like it, but now I'm wanting to do more things with my inventory up, like sheath and unsheath and stuff like that. So we're going to play with that. I'd love you guys to give your feedback on how you think that feels. At first, I thought it was kind of weird, and that just made me immediately not like it. But then I played with it more, and I'm like, actually, I do like it. It just, now I want more things there. And then some things just didn't work. Like we actually made a run at doing monkey rolls in combat in this one.
Yep.
We tried it. It felt cool, but was not responsive enough to actually let me monkey roll out of the way. So we're going to go back and look at that one again. So as always, it's kind of a grab bag of a whole bunch of improvements and polish bits and things like that. But overall, I'm really excited to have you guys trying out Fortunes of War. I think it's going to be a really solid upgrade for us.
Absolutely.
Okay, so feedback on the Fortunes of War. Go to the forums as always. We really appreciate your feedback. The timing of the next trial. So, because we were forced to do a character wipe on this one, I specifically said, we have to do a character wipe, and we've got the we've got now a level prereq on getting into the campaign. It's not a high one. It's like 15th level or 20th level.
20.
I mean, it's a couple hours really to get
absolutely.
in. But I didn't want to immediately start the next trial. Like originally the plan was launch on Tuesday and then get the new trial up on like Thursday. Well, if I didn't have time to play in that period of time,
You
it
just
meant that I
can't-
missed the beginning of the campaign, and that seemed really crappy. So I actually suggested that we bump it out until next week. And in doing that, it also gives us time to make some tweaks to the siege schedule that we've been talking about internally, so that we don't have like every night I must get on or I'm going to lose my keep, you know, to kind of do a better spacing. So so that's coming. So that the timing is now next Tuesday is our estimated date. Is that correct? CC?
Yes.
Yes?
What is this
No?
trial?
Well, we would prefer not
Did I
to
just
say
pull
it,
a Mark
but-
Ruffalo? You guys? You know, he gets married in this movie. Y'all seen that?
It's timed in that window, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to mention that
Be
Cerelia.
announced.
Cerelia said in chat that in 2 hours of chilled farming got them to level 30.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I
Quite
said, it
not
is.
losing
All the people are like, you've had it a grind. I promise, we really, really haven't. It's not. This is not a harsh penalty.
Everything is falling.
Yeah,
it's on
it's
fire.
not. So get in and try it. It also, in theory, I mean, hopefully, if we did our jobs right, it should be pretty enjoyable as an experience. Like, I'm kind of running through it. I think it's faster than Diablo. Right, is our current leveling speed.
It is, in fact,
pretty fast.
It's about 3x right now.
And we also put in some respec stuff, right? You can actually change out your disciplines now.
As long as you're in the temple.
So you don't have to restart. So that's another shortcut. And we have item sacrifice. So any items that you get, you can dump into the sacrifice brazier to shortcut leveling. Like, I promise, it's really not that bad before you decide to lynch Blair. And believe me, I understand why you might want to. But try this one first before you reach that conclusion. Okay, so other thing that CC would like us to let you know is we would love it if you would share your war stories so that Pan here can help give you make you famous relatively within the Crowfall community by tagging your videos with hashtag war stories, hashtag Crowfall game. There you go.
Before we move on, and since you just mentioned leveling, this is a timely question. Fruit wants to know if there's any news on sacrificing older vessels to your new higher quality vessels, because blue epic legendary leveling is not fast.
So, so we don't have anything like this in yet, but we have talked about it quite a bit. It's what I call transformations, and actually, it's something similar to what we did on my original mud, Joseph and my original mud way back in the day. Was transformations as a way of basically saying, hey, I hit the max level with this character. Let me do so. I don't want to have to start a new character. Let me do something to this character to basically jump them up to the next level. Yeah. We haven't quite figured out how we would want that to work. I like it narratively. I think it actually is cool because some people feel an emotional attachment to their character and they don't want to dump that character and move on to a different one. So providing an alternate mechanism that allows you to continue to progress, I'm totally behind it. I'm just not quite sure how to make it work yet.
Yeah, so. I mean, we're still at the brainstorming phase on that too, right? I mean, it was. Do people have to go from white to green to blue?
Yeah,
to purple?
I don't know.
Do they have to? Can they skip? Like all the things. I do know that in
500, or maybe with transformations we do force that, but with the vessels you can skip, which would be vessels become therefore a little bit more hardcore, but again shortcutting, which is something I really like. So I don't know. We're open on that. If you guys have comments and thoughts on it, we'd be happy to listen to your feedback and take into account as we discuss it internally. But I agree with the basic idea for a couple of reasons. So
and in 5100, I also normalized the XP gain curve between the vessel types.
Okay.
So before we were basically triple punishing you.
Yeah.
Because we like to do that.
You like to hit them with 3 types of pain.
Because Todd loves to triple punish.
He's the punisher, just to be clear. He's the one who hates fun.
They're all the same.
I'm a general fan.
Oh, is that what it is? All right, every one of them now is the exact same curve.
Okay.
However, the amount per level is bigger. I'm sorry, the curve is different per vessel. However, the difficulty on the sacrifice is the same.
Okay. Not quite sure what you meant, but I heard you made it better. That's how
it's way better.
Okay.
Yeah, before you couldn't get XP as on a legendary vessel on stuff that was below rank 5.
Okay, so you just freed that up a little bit.
Yeah,
you also you did something similar recently with the power curve for items as well, right? You moved all the was that in the previous build or was that in this one?
That
experimentation points.
That is in this one.
That's in this one as well. So
actually, because there was legacy items out there, players really wouldn't have felt it except on the new items.
Okay.
So now that everything is wiped, they will clearly feel it.
Okay. Here, I'm going to make up a question that's not on the page to explain what he just talked about.
Okay.
So, Blair, have you made any changes to experimentation points in crafting in this version? And if so, how did you fix it or change it?
Yes. So, overall, there used to be a huge delta, over 50% delta, between a common quality item and a legendary item.
Okay.
We basically have that. There's now about 5% delta between each rank, all the way up. right? So the difference between a common and a legendary is still there. It's just not crushingly there.
Right, and so again, a lot of this is our goal is to get people back into the fray. That's part of the goal with the item drops as well. The reason that we have one of the reasons we have item drops is we want to make sure that there's at least a baseline. We still want the crafters to be the top of the food chain. They're still going to create the best stuff in the game, but I don't want to be in a position where I'm ever not able to play at all just because I happen to be in a spot where I can't find the appropriate crafter to give me a weapon, and now what? I just have to log out for a day or a week or whatever. That sucks. So that's the part of it was let's kind of increase the flow of the items in the economy and have a baseline of these items coming out. And then the other was let's make them a little more shallow so I don't feel like, well, I don't have this and therefore I can't be competitive, so I'm going to log out.
Correct.
Right? It's a perception thing as much as anything else. But we did kind of make that power curve more shallow, which I think is good. We were kind of hitting them with a double whammy before as well, right?
In the crafting system,
quality level of the item set the basic stats and also determined experimentation points on top of that.
And we capped the number of experimentation points you got per quality level.
Right, so it was like hitting them multiple times
Right.
to where, and that caused a steeper power curve than we wanted. So you kind of normalize that.
So most players are probably going to end up using blue and purple, sometimes legendary items, I would imagine. So they'll be within a really close power band. And if you go to a crafter, also, they can give you the custom stats you want.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? If you're relying on the random loot system, the odds of you getting the exact thing you want, much smaller. Whereas I can just go, hey, Todd, make me a sword that does this.
They also decay faster, right? Like
they have half the durability.
They have half the durability, so the crafted stuff will just last longer as well.
Yeah.
So I will say that we've tried, as you can tell from these things we just mentioned, we've tried really hard to maintain the idea of crafting being the top of the food chain. If we're still not there, we will continue to try. That is the stated goal. So I'm not saying we are there and then we're not going to change it again. I'm saying that's the stated goal. We're going to keep trying. If it's not there, we'll do more to make sure that is the case. But I can't have it be the only way items come to the game, because if unfortunately, if we put a dependency in like that, then what happens is the other person who hits a roadblock, they just stop playing, and that's bad for the game. That's bad for everybody. That's future customer gone for you. So even for the crafters, they shouldn't want that. They should want the game to be fully playable, engaging for all players all the time.
And we feel it in-house. I think it was Max who, he was making his first advanced bow, and he couldn't find a component for it, and he finally got that component, and then he crafted it, and it ended up being a flawed assembly.
Yeah.
And it was just like...
Well, actually, he got into a point where he literally could not continue playing. He came, because I remember he came and he was like, so I've hit this point, I can't get better equipment, there is none for sale, nobody is selling what I want, I can't take on the next level of monsters at all, like I just get crushed. What do I do? And I tried every answer. We'll try this. Did you try this? And eventually the answer was he couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
He literally was being told by the game, your experience is over now, go away. And that's generally in design, we don't like that. That's the thing we try to avoid, is telling people to go away. So so now we're trying to come up with some other avenues. I do recognize, though, that there are certainly going to be people who are like, hey, crafting is my thing. You're kind of messing around with the core of what I do. And I get that. I totally hear you. And we will do everything we can to make sure that you guys continue to feel like you're important and your play style is cherished, because it is. I mean, Raph and Blair are not going to let you not feel like you're important in this game, I promise. We have to constantly having arguments about no, crafters, it must be crafters. So yeah, we get it, but at the same time, I can't put one part of the game so much further in front of everything else that the rest of the game is unplayable for other people. That's
and
just,
in 5100, I don't think they're going to feel that.
No,
because they've got max skills, and the stuff that's dropping isn't going to be near the max crafted stuff.
Yep.
The next time we do a skills wipe, it may be that the looted stuff feels a little better as people ramp up skills.
And we'll need to figure out the catch-up mechanic that we have in general, I think, is going to need to address that. But we'll get to that another time.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be more about today's update.
Okay.
So there you go. Anything else that we forgot in our overextended long intro?
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
I understand. Cece, were you paying attention?
Yes.
Were you?
No,
Did we forget anything?
I missed anything.
I don't know why I asked her in the first place. She never
I think
pays
you did a
attention.
good
No, yeah,
job
it was
of
good.
explaining
Okay.
it, and it's something that you can always continue tuning.
Okay.
And I think you make that point.
And
Alright.
I really want to point out that I think the team did a great job in getting this update out.
Yeah, for sure.
In 5100, oftentimes you think it's just me and Todd doing the things. But there's
I
a
almost do
whole-
none of the things.
There's a
actually.
wole body of people back there who are
I
actually
keep Val around just to
entering
make
data.
me look productive.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because at least I pay attention.
I mean, you weren't even in the office for
No,
You
so-
asked for that.
One of the points that I think is important, you know, you're mentioning that Max, who, you know, granted, yes, Max is part of our team, but Max said, hey, this is stopping
quite
me
sure
from
where you're
being
going
able
with
to
that,
play. Well, I wanted to mention the thing about the hunger discussions that we've been having, where somebody had mentioned on the forum about, hey, you know, wasn't this chicken ticker thing fixed? And why am I still starving? Like, I eat and it's not helping. Because we saw that feedback on the forum and it sparked a conversation here and we started looking into it. And it all boiled down to there were changes that were made in the God's Reach to help people learn about the hunger mechanic or the chicken ticker mechanic or whatever. There's some big satiation word. I don't even remember. I have to see it to be able to pronounce it. Anyway, so then Brandon was able to go in and tweak how that works in the God's Reach, and everything should be working the way we
Hopefully,
think
I
it
mean,
did.
there are these all things are all tied together.
All
right?
of this, boils down to the importance of a lot of people want to give us feedback on what they want to see added to the game, what they think the game still needs, features that they want added, stuff that, you know, we haven't even thought about putting in. And really the helpful stuff to us right now is when somebody says, hey, I was playing and this thing that I thought was supposed to work like this isn't working like this. Because we may be past that and we may not even notice that that's a thing as much as we play, as much as QA tests it. If it's something where we've moved beyond that, we really need, especially new players who are playing, to tell us, hey, is this how this is supposed to be working? Because sometimes it's not.
Oh, because we accept the pain over a period of time, right? We're just like, oh, that's just the way it is, and we just stop looking at it. You're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that thing that's been jabbing me in the side for 6 months, I just kind of learned to live with it,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of times you need that fresh perspective, which is great, and then we tweak based off.
Yeah, that's actually true. It's where you train yourself naturally to simply not hit that button or to simply
Right.
not to avoid that object or whatever. It's funny actually is that is an issue with getting new. You have to get new people in to look at it because after a while your brain just doesn't even notice something that you're like, oh, there is a big red button that is right there that if they click it, they crash. I forgot. I don't click it anymore
Yeah.
because I learned that after the first time I crashed. So no, that's a really good point. We rely on you guys constantly for feedback and for testing coverage because we are a small team.
Yeah, sometimes it may take us longer to react, but we still need to hear it. And if we hear it from enough people, then we know this is important. This is something we need to address because it's preventing people from having fun.
Yep.
It's preventing them from.
And then
progressing.
we did a lot of the focus that the design team put into this particular build was exactly that, going back and looking at some of those core mechanics and saying, hey, is this actually fun? And if it's not, how do we make it so? And quite frankly, in some cases, the answer may be, this is dumb and we should just pull it. We may find that too. So, okay, so let's go to the actual questions now,
Okay.
since we've spent more than half, I think, of our allotted or expected time.
22 minutes.
Yeah, so okay, so the first question is basically just an overall timeline and schedule question. And it's basically, when are you guys going to go alpha? When are you going to go beta? When are you? And I've kind of gotten out of the habit now of giving dates. I mean, that's just not the way we're working around here. I want to be able to stop and adjust based on the feedback that I'm getting from you guys. And if I put a firm date in the sand, then I have to pick. I have to pick every single time. Are we going to try and make that date, or are we going to address this concern? And I can't always do one, I can't always do the other, so I try and leave it open. I will say that it should be pretty clear to people who've been watching a long time know this, but people who are just kind of checking in every now and then should be pretty clear that we are on a trajectory to hit alpha. We're not throwing out alpha and beta terms casually. We've just stayed in pre-alpha forever. We want to get the game mostly done before we actually call it alpha.
Yep.
It won't be every single thing, but I want it to be more or less the game. And so I feel like we're getting very close. You can actually start to feel the game really coming together, but I'm not going to tell you, well, and give me another blah, blah, blah days or weeks or whatever. We'll see it when we get there, and that's just the way we're managing it. So,
All right.
yep, so there you
All
go. This is a question about gold.
Yep.
The question, how is gold intended to function in the economy? But I'll give the unstated subtext is, holy crap, I've got way too much gold and there's nothing to spend it on. Gold is worthless and now we're all using dust as your currency. Is this really your plan?
Yes.
That's the actual question that's being asked.
Yes, and I think a lot of that question comes from where we've been in the past.
Right.
Right. We had way too much gold on the NPCs that we did have in the game.
That's part of it, and there were no sinks.
And
there
there was
still are very few
absolutely no
sinks.
sinks.
So the answer to the question that I ask, is this really what you intend? Is no, not really. We just haven't gotten to that yet. So we have a bunch of sinks that are coming. We have a few.
They're appearing right now.
Some of them are coming in right now. We have more that we have planned, and we're still in discussion internally about how to add even more. So, and I think we've been also kind of trolling the forums as well, looking for good ideas of additional things.
I mean, the current ones you're going to see is the weapon molds that every weapon needs. You pay 100 gold tax to make a weapon, basically. And the disciplines. Now that every discipline is on a vendor, when you start to combine those things to make the higher quality ones, all of a sudden that price tag of 500 gold turns into 2,500 pretty quick, turns into 50,000, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I think that's good. I still like the idea of having them out in the world as well.
Oh, they are.
I like alternatives. I think alternatives are really cool. But if I can't find it or I'm just not interested in going out and looking for it, having another alternative to get it is smart and it's cool. So,
or let's say you get 2 and you're like, oh, I just got a purple vessel, but I only have 2 of this discipline. I can go buy the other 3 I need to combine it up to the quality,
which is nice
from the vendor. So you have options.
Yeah, right? I think right now we're only dropping the blues. Is that right?
No, blues, greens, whites, all the way down. We're dropping.
Dr. Brandon, is that true or is he lying?
He's not here.
Oh, damn it. I just did that because WC told me not to call Brandon from the other room. So,
totally true.
Yeah. So, okay. So I know it was that way at some point. Remember, I've been gone for a number of weeks, but I know it wasn't that way at some point. If it is that way, it won't be because we intend to change it so that the other ones drop.
Okay, real quick, there's a question from Ja, who said, "Is it intended that we'll be able to farm gold in safe zones, buy white disciplines, and get legendary disciplines that way? No risk required for getting those disciplines."
That is a good question. I don't know. I'd have to. That wasn't my initial thought, was letting them get that. So part of the challenge, though, is, and we discussed this internally. So in fact, this came out of the forums. Is somebody raised a very interesting question that floated up through Hallish, and he said, "Hey, we keep saying that." We are treating disciplines like there's something that you really need to go out and find and spend a lot of time and investment to get.
Right.
But in actuality, the design, players don't see them that way. They see them as a core part of my character. And if they are a core part of my character, they really shouldn't be aspirational. I shouldn't have to go so far out of my way to find them. I should be able to just build the damn character that I want to build. So we started to move the spectrum back to, all right, give them avenues to be able to get them if we want to. So that's the real question, is we kind of have this idea that I should be able to make a minimum viable character and take it into the campaign. I should be able to get minimum viable, at least in the safe world. So if minimum viable is a white character, a white vessel with all my disciplines, then your question is really valid, which is, hey, I shouldn't be able to have a mechanism back in the safe worlds to get those. But what if a purple vessel with no disciplines falls back under the line of minimum viable because disciplines are actually part of your core base kit? Then that argument becomes a little fuzzier, right? And so it's a great question. It's actually not one that I thought through. And so I want to go and we have a design, meeting every other day now or so that we kind of get in a couple times a week where we get in the room and we all talk about here's what's going on. We float up the issues from the forums and we're playing ourselves and we talk through all the issues. And that sounds like a really good one for us to bring up because I don't know the answer right off the top of my head. It kind of cuts to the heart of, are disciplines minimum viable? Should they be considered a part? Should they be something that is locked away and therefore aspirational? I could see a good argument on either side, and I'm not sure where it would fall out of my head yet.
And whichever way we want to go, we have easy answers too. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very easy for me to put a widget in that final recipe that only comes from the campaign.
Absolutely,
right. It's just another recipe. So the question is what do we want to do?
Yeah.
And we just really haven't thought about that one yet.
Yeah.
So it was more important for us to give players viable kits in this update,
right?
Than we were worrying about.
Oh, I know. I was trying to lean that we felt way too locked away and dependent. That was the feeling that I had in the last one, is I'm too dependent on other people. I want interconnectivity for social reasons, but I would rather those be carrot than stick. Yeah. And this build just felt like I was too restricted in what I could do. So we kind of pushed to the other side to opening things up. Give me multiple avenues to do the thing. If I want to achieve something, give me a way to do it. It may not be the optimal way to do it, but there is a way to do it. We may have pushed too far and need to swing it back. That's pretty common in design. So let's all get in and play and we'll see. We'll see how it feels. Okay, you ready for the next one?
Yep. Are you evaluating anything new to help players compete and catch up with more experienced players?
Okay, so two parts of that, right?
Yep.
One is the characters, which is what the actual question said, is what about the characters? The other one is skills, which was, I think, again, a subtext of this. So characters, the answer is really easy, which is this build largely took care of that problem.
Yep.
Like the character standpoint, I can max a new guy really fast. I'm no longer going to have as much trouble as I did before getting the disciplines. I have equipment loot drops, so I can gear up very fast. If I get killed, I can gear up again really fast. So we've got a lot of good answers on that. Skills we don't have a good answer on yet, which is we don't have a catch-up mechanic yet on skills. I do have some ideas for how to do it. One of the questions earlier was about gold sinks. I think, maybe.
Yeah.
Could be that there could be some possible ways to sync up there. So I don't have a good answer for that yet. And certainly while we have some ideas, there's nothing yet I'm ready to talk about. But we do recognize that it's an issue, and it will be something we solve before launch. How's that?
And we've been moving towards answers, so I think that's
Absolutely.
that's a good place to be.
Okay, question number 4 is for you, Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Wood elves still teleport through walls. Is that intended?
This is in fact not intended.
Okay, and can they do it in
They
in
should be in
Fortunes
5100.
of War?
In Fortunes of War, please tell us if you can find a spot where they can, because they shouldn't be anymore.
Cool.
Do you think somebody's really going to tell you if they can do that? If that was my superpower, I wouldn't tell you.
That's a good point. Tell us if one of your enemies does it
Yes.
to you. There you
Yes.
go. Now we'll get
No,
the answer.
it's great because our community has always been very concerned about things being used against them.
Yeah.
That they often silent confessional to me in via IMs and things like that. That hey, I saw this happening. Not that I've ever done it, but we
Yes.
know it's happening.
Yes.
But it's great because a lot of the bugs just get knocked out that way. So continue to send me things that shouldn't be happening. and-
Continue to rat out your enemies.
Yeah, keep doing that. We like it. That's great. Okay, question number 5. It's 6 because we inserted one at the beginning. But question number 5, is the guild hall supposed to have guild banking? So, remember I mentioned earlier that we tried a few things that didn't work?
That one.
This was one that we totally thought would work. Like, it was like, hey, we've got the guild halls. Let's just go ahead and put bank containers in those, and it will work. And we tried that and it didn't. We're like, oh, I thought that would work. Okay, instead then let's put a socket in there and let's create a new deed type that is a chest, just like a vendor can be socketed to can be placed on a vendor deed can be placed on a vendor socket. Let's create a chest socket and a chest item that can be attached to it. And we tried that and it did work until the server shut down, and then on reboot all of those items were wiped, which seemed like that was actually worse.
That was a catastrophic work,
Yeah.
though, right? Because you thought it was going to work, but then when it came up,
it didn't
everything
work.
was gone.
And then the more we looked into it, it was just like we pulled one thread and the whole tapestry started to unravel. And we're just like, okay, guild banking is not in. Sorry, we'll work on it. So here's the good news: is the old Spirit Bank has been now rebranded. We've rebranded it as the Vault because it's in the lobby, and I just think that's a cooler name, the Vault. So the Vault has more storage than the old Spirit Bank did. We beefed it up. I don't remember what the old one was, but the new one has, first of all,
165.
like 165 or something.
200.
But the old one, if you had an item that was a 2x2, it took up 4 of those squares.
Yeah.
If you had a 3x2, so the new one is a list. And one item or one stack is one entry in the list. So that, and we went ahead and bumped the capacity up to 200. So that's not a giant increase, but it was the increase that we felt comfortable doing before we put this thing at test under load. So assuming that those tests go well, or if they don't, that we can easily fix the problems, the next step will be to increase that. And I do think we want to increase it. So that's one, is the vault now gives you additional storage space. The other is that in the worlds, we've combined the world bank into a similar list structure, and you can open that thing up and you can move things in and out. And it's because the vault is now the old Spirit Bank. The vault is a new Spirit Bank. Because the vault now is separate from the world bank, that means putting things in and out of the world bank no longer takes any input or export tokens.
Right.
So that actually helps quite a bit because you can just move items in and out all day without having to worry about it. And it's only moving things between a world bank and the vault that costs you import and export. And if you're on an unrestricted world,
if you're
you don't
God's
even have
Reach,
to do that.
right.
Or your EK. You don't have to do that either.
So you guys aren't even going to see tokens until next week.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true.
Right.
Yep,
So right now,
for sure.
what they're playing in 5100, there's no tokens used because there's God Reach.
Yeah, so this was an interesting design challenge, right? Import export is something that's really unique to us. Other games don't generally have that because they don't have unique worlds and don't let players move between those worlds. So adding this whole extra layer of I have a world bank and then I also have the vault and I'm moving stuff in between did add some complexity, and that always gives you heartburn, right? We already have a very complicated game, and adding more complexity is a little scary. The thing that to me made the difference was, but it's complexity that we can push a little later in the gameplay experience to the more experienced players. The new players coming in, they don't see it at all.
No.
For them, it's a really simple, it's like hopping on and off a city bus, right? Whereas the other one, the Embargo system, is more like going through an international security gate at an airport, right? I have to check my stuff in, and I go through the other side, and I pull it out. There is more complexity there. It was necessary for the design. I like how it's staged out.
Yeah.
It's actually turned out pretty nice.
Okay, so
that
there's
was,
some-
again, the subtext of that question was we need more storage space.
Yeah.
We're storing stuff on corpses, and that's pretty lame. I agree. We're working on it, I
Sorry.
promise.
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine.
Just some chat from the chat channel. Josh said, World Bank can be used everywhere. When can we expect that to be based on location? And then Fruit said, the World Bank will not be available at all times, right? You will have to go to a physical location
Yes,
in the campaign.
it will. And the reason we didn't add that right now is because we didn't have bags in. We had no capacity for storing. We felt like the fear was we have the cat and mouse game I call it of combatants versus like crafters and collectors is so tilted already in favor of the cat that I was afraid now also telling the mouse, by the way, you no longer have access to your bank unless you make it back to the temple alive, would just be untenable. So once some of those other protective measures come in place, technically we could do it now. This is one of those weird things where we're running a live service on a game that's not done. So even though we get a feature done, we're going to sit on it on purpose just because the people who are in and playing the not finished game are going to have a much worth experience. And so that was it. On that one, I didn't feel like it would be fair to put, or I didn't feel like it would be a fun experience. And I really don't like systems that are set up that I know are going to cause people to rage quit. So, and we have enough of them that I can't solve that I know are going to cause people to rage quit.
This one's easy to
So the
solve.
ones when I can be like, all right, well, let's just wait on that until we have some of those protective measures. And then when we do, yes, we can totally open it up. That is where we are going. In the temples, there's actually one of the quadrants. In fact, it's in the vendor area. There's a hallway going down into a vault area. And if you are in an unrestricted world and you go down there and you open that up, you will just open the vault directly. And you can move stuff in and out of the vault with no import or export restrictions. If you are in a restricted world, which is basically a campaign, and you go down there, it will open the world bank, and then from the lobby is where you do your import and export mechanism between your vault and your world bank. What's nice about that is by moving that to the lobby, it also means that campaign can be offline for a month, and you can still go in, and if you have items that are stored in that world bank for the campaign, even though it's long over, you can still export them. So that was a nice kind of architectural change we had to make as well.
Yeah, you guys will start to get a feel of that next week.
Yeah,
when the campaign
I really do think it's a much stronger design. I think it's going to take a little getting used to because not only is it unique to Crowfall, but we've kind of trained everybody, including ourselves, on Spirit Bank for so long that getting used to this new thing is going to be a little weird at first. But it's setting up the foundation that we need to be able to do things like, improved campaign rewards for the winners and things like that later that we couldn't really do easily because, once that world went offline, those items were offline. Like
they were gone.
They were gone. Sorry, can't get them. They're offline. Now they're actually stored up in central service, which is way more inside baseball than you guys need to know. But anyway, we fixed that. So.
All right, so
All right.
do you have more questions?
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, what do we got?
Yeah,
The old streamlined crafting UI.
Yeah, I actually still love that. I think it'd be really cool.
It was the projects UI for a lot of people who saw that.
Yeah,
It was what we were
it
calling
was
them
a tree
projects.
structure.
It built the tree structure.
I still want to do it. The problem is it doesn't get any oxygen when we have other major things like caravans. We don't have that in at all. So, given or embargo, kind of a big deal. Way more important than, so crafting, I don't love our interface right now. It's kind of clunky and it requires too much clicking, but it does work. Right? But compare that to other things that just weren't in at all.
That we don't have.
That we just don't have. The things that we don't have take priority. So it is on the list. I don't know when it'll come. It will bubble its way up to the surface at some point, and it'll get some love and attention.
But we haven't forgotten it because
we haven't forgotten it. I still love it. I think it'd be a fantastic design, but it's just not on the list right now. So
yes.
Cool.
And this barbed one that was sent out to us in this last update, do the devs ever play as actual characters without any dev tools?
Constantly, actually.
Yes.
The only so unless I'm getting in the game to specifically test something, and then in that case I might use a teleport command, and usually then it's on the test server, right? I
Yeah.
don't do it in the live. When I go into live, I don't use dev tools. In general, people are not supposed to. So if
Yeah,
someone
a lot of us
has
don't even
them-
have-
we
yeah.
have a pretty hard and fast rule here
Right.
to where like
It has to
it's
be
like-
some very extenuating circumstance. So I'll give you an example of one. If there's a customer support issue that comes up and Gordon needs to log in and use a CSR and use a dev tool because he wants to test and verify the veracity of that report, like, hey, I can't log in with my character or whatever, then yeah, he's going to use the tools. But generally speaking, the answer is if you're on the internal dev server, go crazy, do whatever you need to do. If you're on the test server, okay, if you can make a good argument for why you needed to do it or whatever, then all right. And you know, it's if Gordon does it, nobody's going to yell at him. If I do it, nobody's going to yell at me. If poor Wyatt does it, he's probably going to get yelled at anyway because everybody likes to yell at him. So and then if it's on live, you know, like hands off, like just don't use them unless it's a
Yeah.
customer service or something like
Absolutely
that.
not, yeah.
We do play. Now that said, I will say that that doesn't mean that your feedback is not invaluable to us, because it is. The simple fact is we do not have enough time in the day or enough people here to get full coverage on the game that we are building. So we will never be as good as some of you guys are at playing our game. That's kind of, I'm used to that. That's been the way on every game I've ever worked on. Some of the players are
Yeah.
just better at playing. So I want you guys to keep playing, and I do want you to keep giving us your feedback. But yes, we do try and get in. We do try and play as much as possible. We're just not as good.
Yeah,
as
and Halish and I have architected and implemented most of the powers in many things, and there's a lot of just things that we forget, and players come up with better combinations than us
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
They have more time.
That's the nature of a combination. That's also kind of the fun of a combinatory
Right.
system, right? Is finding those interesting combinations that the developer clearly didn't think about. I actually think that's kind of cool. So as long as it's not hideously game breaking.
Right.
If it is, I guess we'll deal with it. Okay, combat and balance changes. Are there any on the horizon? That's a funny question. Nope, we're all done.
Nope, finished. Nope. Well,
Yay, I'm
all
glad you
dead.
asked. It was this morning, actually, that we called it.
We checked in the last power, everything worked, and
Yeah.
we're finished. No, actually, as I've said many times, we never stop.
No.
We always we're trying to make the client snappier, the server more responsive. Like that effort just doesn't stop.
It's funny. So I get a little bit more inside production that some of you will find interesting and a lot of you won't care about. But we have daily reports basically that come out in the morning or at the end of the day that say, hey, here's what I worked on today, or here's what I finished up yesterday, and here's what I worked on the day. And basically you take today's and you push it to the back and you put the new day on every day. And they come to the email box and I get to see kind of at a high level glance, here's generally speaking what people are working on. And it's in case I notice that, oh, this person says they're going to work on this, but this artist over here, I need to make sure that Melissa sees notes, so we can kind of keep tabs on what's going on in the organization. So anyway, so I think that's a lot, right?
That is a lot.
Okay, so let me
More-
ask a couple of questions because Yanni has asked this so many times that his copy paste fingers must be cramping.
Okay, what's up?
When will we be able to use other skills while holding down the left mouse button? Since the new character controller, I have to stop using the left mouse button to use another skill.
Power.
Yes, so I'm kind of curious what changed in the character controller that caused that to happen.
Do we
Because
need
you've
Yanni
always
to make a
you've
post?
always had a time in a power where you can't do anything else because you're animated,
Yeah.
right? So we call those blackout timers. And when you
So
start,
it's pretty common, right? That's not like a unique
Right.
to Crowfall thing at all.
no,
right?
it's all games have this. Basically, while I'm doing a sword slice, I can't do another
Yeah,
thing.
but it doesn't sound like to me what this is about. So I will say, when I attack, I click. I don't hold. I don't hold to attack. It's just
Yeah.
not my style. I tend to click. So I'm wondering if this is just one of those things that it's a weirdness that's not supposed to be there that I didn't notice because I don't
Yeah, 'cause
happen to play that way.
I
know.
don't
So-
hold either.
Yeah.
I click as well.
Yeah. So
Okay, so
I don't
Yanni,
know.
maybe you could send us a video.
Well, the first
Or
thing is we'll
something,
just go
yeah,
try
just-
it. Let's.
yeah.
I mean, I yell out right now and have somebody go give it a shot and see if it's working as intended. If it is working as intended, then we'll say, oh, I think here's what I understand what you're talking about, and here's why. And if it's not, then thanks for the bug report, and we'll get somebody on it.
Okay, and then Grayson says, ballistas. What kind of review is being performed on them, i.e. the amount of damage amount and radius of turning around and hitting the tree room and also healing the tree?
there is some weirdness still going on with our siege weapons for sure, right? That seems to be an area that is a little bit fragile, right? It's like it tends to break quite a bit. So I don't know what the status is. I know that it was kind of broken when I left
know
a couple weeks ago.
We haven't done any work on it.
Okay.
As 5100 closes, again, it was all about the
Do we still
progression.
have the invisible death fields, or have we fixed that?
That should have been fixed.
I hope that seemed like a bad one to me. It seemed kind of like invisible death.
Oh, here's a
fields
very
and
high
stuff.
damage field. Oh, and we're not going to show you where
Yeah.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So, however, there has been some grumbling about a lot of the defenders don't like their ballistas being used against them.
Okay,
The fact
yeah,
that the
yeah,
sockets can be used by the enemy. So we can see all of this. We are going to go into a siege evaluation loop in the design team.
Okay.
As when we play through it, when we actually get to that phase.
Yeah.
And we have some time to actually work on the action items. The problem is we do a lot of our own play tests, and we'll generate like this much stuff that we want to do, and we're
Yeah.
like, we don't have time to do all that. We have to
Of
pick the
course,
really
we
high
have
nails.
to do the same thing. So I will say that
Right.
the focus for this particular milestone wasn't really on sieging, right? It was more on items, itemization, embargo, the things that we've been talking about this
Yep.
time. So I think that you will see when you come in now, the ramp up to get people into the Throne War is going to be a much stronger experience. I think it's going to be a lot more polished. The siege, my guess is going to be incrementally better than before, because that's natural in the course of fixing the 1,000 or whatever, how many thousands of bugs we fixed over the last 10 or 11 weeks. But I've no doubt that there's still a tremendous amount of work that can be done. So yeah, I think it's a valid point, and I think it is something that we need to make sure that you guys kind of start to focus on. So.
Okay, and then the last thing, this was mentioned, I saw a press briefing, but I haven't had a chance to read what they put up so far at like Massively and MMORPG, so I don't know if they hit on this, but in the write-up that we provided to our media contacts, it mentioned Dregs, and a lot of people in here are asking about Dregs.
Oh, it did.
It did.
How's that?
Yeah. That's because it's next. So the next stop on the train is going to be Dregs. That is true. And I specifically, when Debbie, Sue, and I talked about that, we're like, it's coming. We could tell them, and we discussed. We're like, how much should we tell them? We're like, let's not. Let's save that. So we'll actually have something to talk about in the future. But yeah, that's the next major thing we're going to be working on.
The Dregs.
Yeah, the Dregs. So, and for those of you who played Shadowbane, you have a pretty good idea what that, or those of you who've been following us since Kickstarter, you have a pretty good idea what that means. So,
Yeah, we don't need to dive
so
into detail on that.
Guild versus Guild, it's on the horizon, which is super exciting. I
So
think
that
that's gonna
being
be
said, I
great.
just want to stress again the importance of talking to us about what you're seeing and experiencing in the game right now, because we don't want to lose focus of fixing and polishing and staying the course of what we have now, rather than everybody wants to talk about Dregs and everybody wants to design the Dregs, and that means that what we have now is being treated like a little redhead stepchild.
Well, this is the nature of, I think it's actually human nature to some degree, right? Is I'm always interested in what's over the next horizon.
Yep.
And so
Yeah, I know.
We
That's
kind of,
why
as a
I'm
dev team, we're the same way, right? We're always like, I've been looking at this stuff. It's old and busted. I'm ready to move on to the new
Yeah.
hotness, right? So I'm excited about the stuff that just went up. I think that a lot of players who will get in, so we'll probably see some people we haven't seen in a while, which is really cool. I think it'll be great to get them back in. But yeah, so we need to continue moving forward, though, on the next major horizon. And that really, to me, the Dregs is the great, that's the great white whale that we need to go kill. Maybe not my finest analogy, but that's the big, that's the summit. That's what we need to hit. That's the biggest thing that's standing between us and Alpha. So it's time to move on it. Time to get it in. So, pretty exciting.
It
Pretty
is
cool.
exciting.
Pretty
Everybody's
cool.
excited.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of the list of stuff.
Oh,
it's
it's
monstrous.
a mountain of work as well, but
Yeah.
but we have laid a lot of the foundation for it now, so I'm feeling pretty excited about it.
That's part of it too. I mean, people were asking in here, like, why didn't you just start with that? But you had to have a foundation to build upon to even be able to do that. So,
Yeah, we did, and there's other weird things too, like you have to take into account the production schedule of the web tech, because that's we're trying to tie. There's a whole bunch of reasons. Now that said, if I had it to do over again, would I necessarily have done it in the same order? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. There are days when I definitely wish that it had played out in a way that we'd have ran for that first, but we didn't. So,
Yep.
what can you do? But I was laying the groundwork for it all the way back into like the first. I mean, the EK.
Well, that's what the EK is.
EK building token
That
system,
all of
right?
that
Is
building
for
and
free
tokens.
placement of buildings
Yep.
and all the building wall socket stuff. That was all done for Dregs. So now that we're here, it's primarily about organizing the team, reworking out the rules, working on fealty. I'm getting too far ahead of myself. I wasn't supposed to talk about that. Isn't that right, Cece? So we're done talking about that. So Dregs, it's coming. It's cool. You're gonna like it. But in the meantime, as Val said, we really appreciate you guys getting in and giving us feedback on the current game.
Yep.
I'm sorry that I said Blair doesn't like you. He loves you. You know that. I don't have to tell you that.
And please, 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 like, play on live now that the Fortunes of War is live. Help us identify anything that's going to cause you a problem when the next trial starts next week. Like, the more bug reports and issues that we can address now is just going to make that campaign so much better.
Yeah, I'm excited to get the campaign siege window changes in. I think that will actually help quite a bit in this next campaign. I think that'll change it up some. So.
Oh, and somebody else was asking, just very quickly, I know we're trying to get out of here because we're already like way over time, but somebody asked if we would be able to publish the siege schedule somewhere where you can see it, like from the forums or on the website, and I think that's a good point to make.
Yeah, we're planning
Yeah.
to do it. We
Yeah.
just hadn't done it yet. So.
And
Okay.
it's always in the game, of course.
Yeah, but sometimes,
24 hours.
Yeah, but the new one.
weekly one,
Yeah.
we were planning to publish on, like, however you would like to on the forums.
Okay, great. Yeah, that would be good because I think some people, they can't log in every day.
Right,
And
for sure.
knowing, like, okay, so I'm going to be off on Thursday, but it's Tuesday. I can't even see what siege times are that far out. So,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I
true.
think that would
That's
be
good.
very
We're gonna
helpful.
post the 7-day one.
Okay, excellent. All right, I'm done. I'm
Okay.
done.
All right.
So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook channels.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That's
And they can give us feedback there as well if they want to.
Yeah.
Lots of people do.
You should be smiling at me. I'm the one who remembered.
Lots of
Yeah,
people
I
do.
totally
Scowl at
forgot.
him.
yeah.
But the
if this
forums
is-
are better. I really stress on the forums because, really, Emily and I are the two who primarily see stuff on the social media, and we can forward it to people. But if I can send somebody a link to a thread on the forum, that's so much better.
I see social media, Val. I'm on social media all the time.
And you scared the crap out of me. with
Why?
you being
I
on
never
social
say
media.
anything that you would find objectionable.
I think it's
Okay,
great.
so tweet all of your feedback to @JToddColeman.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yep.
Whatever.
Here you
Okay,
go.
if this is your
All
first
your
time
thoughts and
watching the
dreams.
show, visit crowfall.com to learn more about the game.
And we have more of these live streams, I guess, is the other thing. We typically do one once a month or once every other month or something
Yep.
like that. And there's also an archive of them now on our Twitch channel,
YouTube,
correct?
On our YouTube channel.
On YouTube, I thought we also had Twitch partnership thing, something. No?
Twitch, yes, they're on Twitch as well.
Yeah, that's what I
you said
thought.
Twitter, yeah.
I
They're on
might have. Who
Twitch.
knows?
Twitch
I
and
can't
YouTube.
really keep that stuff straight. Old dog, new tricks. So, okay, and I guess that's it. The only other thing to say is, as always, I want to thank you guys for your attention and your support and your patience. You guys are awesome. We wouldn't be here. We say it every time, but it bears repeating, is we wouldn't be here without you. So thank you so much for all your support. And I really hope you like this update. I'm really excited to get you guys into the next one. So we're going to get to work on that at the same time you guys are playing this one and give us feedback. So. Is that it?
All right, I think that's it.
All right. Thank
Enjoy
you very much,
5100.
guys. All right.
Thanks,
See
y'all.
you soon.